Wherever you are, make it Truth Frequency Radio.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We are back. Freaky Friday is live and the Woo crew are raring to go. Hope all of you out there are half as enthusiastic as we are about tonight's show, because it is going to be off the charts. I'm Kev Baker. I'm just one of the Woo crew here tonight, and I'm joined by, in no particular order, Joe Joseph, Johnny Whistles, Scotty Lopez, and the amazing John King. So, guys, are we raring to go?
Yes.
Sure.
Well, sure, yes, I am. Hello.
Well, oh, yeah, it's going to be one of these nights. Joe's in his body.
Boy. Yes, I'm rip, roaring, and ready to go, Kev. Yes.
Well, that's good man, because Johnny Whistles has been out on location today.
I heard. Nothing like doing a little lineage, little family history, research, and even better, to go right to the place where it all began, Whistles, huh? That's where it all began. Did you get baptized at Roslyn Chapel? I'm sure you did, right? Did they do like the sword thing? Were you knighted there?
Joe, I didn't have time. I was actually working in Roslyn Chapel, building it at the time.
What was your job specifically there?
Making tea.
Really? See, I've always said that too, because I've asked Mr. Baker from time to time. I said, if you ever need somebody that makes you make your coffee, I'd be glad to, But well, so I know how that is.
Well, when I go to Hollywood, right, to play the bad guy in The Last Evangelist, Joe, yeah, I will insist that you can be in my trailer to make me tea, coffee, whatever the hell I want.
And you can have John King as your fluff girl.
Whatever, dude. Whatever. Anything's open at this point.
But, my goodness.
Before we get into it tonight, Johnny, you know where I'm sending you. You have to do the honors. And before you go to the chat room, I want to give a big, huge shout out to somebody in there called Enemy Helicopter. Johnny, this guy's one of your biggest fans, and we've been sharing a couple of emails over the last few days, and really, really glad he could make it into the chat room tonight. And I'm glad everyone could tune in, whether it's on iHeartRadio, TalkStream Live, wherever you are. If you want to join the chat room, come to tfrlive.com/chat. So, Johnny, without any further ado, get to your Wookiee cave, man.
Thanks very much, Kev. What can I say? A fantastic place to be is a Wookiee cave, especially on a Friday, as you know, Kev. And we start with the three in blue. We have TFR Wookiee. We've got Bomar, Rockin' Rio. How you doing? We've got Alyssa Lone Star, Mr. Anthony Patch. Fantastic. Great to see you there, Anthony. We've got Ben and Brig. We've got Daryl. We've got Galactic Pixie. We've got Donita. Hillbilly Hermit. Oh, what a name. Love that. We've got Lynn from Wales. And we've got Naga Ward, Nancy Lalonde, New Head Understand, the brilliant Phyllis Lagan with her pictures. We've got Rebecca G, Redempty, Richie J. Jones, Rock Robster. We've got Scotty Lopez here, obviously. We've got Silamo. We've got Valkyrie 801. We've got Who Said They Could. And, we've got the other ones here, sorry. But then we've got Ace Deuce, obviously a poker player. We've got Armand, Chaos Mind Raider, C. Smith Rare. I like that. We've got Dorito, Enemy Helicopter. Great to have you, buddy. We've got Human Commodity, Jabber Baby Wookie. Love it. We've got Lily 7. We've got Shaza, Cheryl Spencer. Great to have you here, Cheryl. We've got Tony Phillips. We've got TFR 902 and Uriah, Kev. I think that's the last one in there.
Absolutely brilliant, Whistles. And of course, you went to the scene of the crime today, Roslyn Chapel. And of course, this was made famous by the Da Vinci novel, the Dan Brown novel, The Da Vinci Code. People in Scotland have obviously known about this place forever, but it really came into the world's attention after Dan Brown included it in that mystery novel. And to set us up, and before Johnny tells us about his experience today, because I'm sure it was an experience, just got a little clip here that will set the stage nicely. Take a listen to this.
A building is just a building until it becomes part of a story, and the story becomes part of a legend. That's what happened to Roslyn Chapel, located just 7 miles southeast of Edinburgh, Scotland. The chapel was founded in 1446 by Sir William Sinclair as a Roman Catholic collegiate church, meaning it was self-governing, with financial support coming from the Sinclair family. What really made Roslyn Chapel famous was the 2003 publication of Dan Brown's best-selling Da Vinci Code. This was followed by the huge box office success of the movie version in 2006, starring Tom Hanks. Roslyn Chapel now welcomes about 140,000 visitors each year. It's an easy, inexpensive public bus ride from the heart of Edinburgh. The number 22 bus takes you to the village of Roslyn, just a short walk from the chapel. Indoor photography is not permitted, but published images and outdoor photography give you an idea of the intricate masonry and carving that first made it famous. The chapel we see today took about 40 years to complete, but it's less than half the size that was planned by Sir William. He died in 1484, and his heirs apparently decided it was big enough. A little over 100 years after the chapel was completed, the Protestant Reformation swept over Scotland. The Sinclairs were warned to close the chapel or risk losing their land and possibly their lives. They complied. The chapel sat abandoned and neglected for almost 150 years. At one point during the English Civil War, Oliver Cromwell stabled horses in the chapel. In 1660, the old Roslyn Inn opened next door. It attracted artists, writers, aristocrats, and royals. The great Scottish writer Sir Walter Scott campaigned to restore the chapel as part of an effort to build national pride and identity. The first major renovation began in 1837. The legend that attracted Dan Brown was the possible link between the chapel and a religious order of warrior knights called the Knights Templar. They provided protection to pilgrims who flocked to the Holy Land after the Crusades. In the process, they became very rich and very powerful. They built a fort on top of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. When the Crusaders were driven out of the Holy Land, they returned to Europe. French King Philip convinced the Pope to disband the Templars. Eventually, there were mass arrests and executions, but some got away and may have been able to take some of the Templar treasure and holy relics collected in Jerusalem, most notably the Holy Grail, the cup Jesus used at the Last Supper, with them. Many believe the Templars became Masons and created the Order of Freemasonry, and that the Masons who built Roslyn Chapel did so with the idea of making it a sacred place to house the Grail and other sacred objects. Is that real history or just a good story? Whatever people believe, it's bringing them back to Roslyn.
And that is where Johnny Whistles went today. The old family gaff. Johnny, how was it?
He went home.
Johnny?
Kev, honestly, it's one of the most fascinating places I've ever been to. The amount of work that was put into this place. I mean, the first time I ever read about it, and it's about this story I'm going to tell you. It was The Apprentice Pillar. I know you know about this, Kev, but now this gets its name dating back to the 18th century, and it involves a master mason who was in charge of the stonework in the chapel. Now, his young apprentice, the master mason, he doesn't believe that the apprentice can perform many of the complicated tasks of carving the column. So he told him to leave it And he went on travels to see the original, do you know what I mean, kind of artwork that he wanted to use. But when he returned, the apprentice had actually done it himself and made this, and I'll post a picture in the chat, which is the most amazing stonework. And this was from a young apprentice. Now, when the master stone, when he seen it, he went absolutely tonto, and he hit the apprentice with a mallet and killed him for doing this. And you know, it's really sad because in one of the corners, it's got a kind of a statue of the actual apprentice, and it's looking straight at the pillar. Now, Kev, honestly, this place is just, I've never seen anything like it. And as you know, the codes that are in this, they're everywhere. Everywhere you look at some sort of code. The ceiling in the chapel, Kevin, you had asked me to get pictures. Well, I've got a couple of them. So this is the one for the pillar. Now, it's just amazing work to think that this was done by an apprentice. He must have been an absolute genius. But the thing is, it's still there for people to see today. So at one stage, you must have liked it then, Kev.
When you were there, I mean, even that video there, it shows you a sign saying absolutely no photography, no video allowed. I mean, are they quite stringent on that, John? Is there people there going around checking and things?
There is. June was actually freaked out because I was taking the pics, you know what I mean? But I was making sure, Kev, that, you know what I mean, there was no harm done. I wasn't going to get thrown out because wherever they were, I was at the other side. Do you know what I mean? So I kept myself quite quiet, and I must have got about 50 pictures of all the different things that are in this chapel, and I'll be posting them in the chat, Kev, as through the show. But honestly, Kev, you need to go and see this. You really do, because it is something to behold.
No, my mum, she's also said that as well. And, you know, this is where the Templars basically came, like it said in that video there, after they were, well, persecuted and chased out of Europe. They really were. And they came over here. And, you know, this chapel, it's a very, very special place indeed. And there's arguments and rumours that it may contain the Holy Grail, whatever that is. The encoded messages all carved throughout the building. There's gargoyles and things like that carved there as well. I'll post some of these pictures in the chat room too. But this place, this really is a centre of, as we would say on Freaky Friday, deep woo, guys.
Wow.
And it's just outside Edinburgh, Joe. I mean, it's anyone in Scotland. It's only a couple of hours away. And like Johnny says, I mean, I'm definitely putting this one on my bucket list, but everyone needs to go and see this place just to experience it. And John, when you were in there, I mean, was there an atmosphere? Could you feel an energy? I know that sounds a really daft question, but some of these oldie worldy buildings, they do that to you.
Well, they do, Kev, but I still haven't had the same feeling that I had when I was at Malta looking at the giant stones. I felt something there. I didn't feel anything in Roswell.
That's
Roslyn.
The hypogeum, isn't it?
Well, it's amazing as well.
So come on then, Joe. What do you make of this place then, man? I mean, Dan Brown, he made it world famous.
Well, I think there's centers of this kind of stuff, if you will. You know, where like you got Roslyn Castle over in Scotland that has this, you know, very rich history, a lot of I don't know, for lack of a better term, myth, even though in myth, there's often a lot of truth, you know, so it could very well be that the Holy Grail's there. And who knows what it is, whether it's a chalice or they even say that that Mary was the Holy Grail, you know. So
the Holy Grail itself could be the message that's encoded into these cymatic codes.
Sure. I mean, it could be anything. Interestingly enough, I believe that there are these, like I said, centers where let's just say the powers that shouldn't be have, or these bloodlines, or, you know, these controlling entities have established in different parts of the world. And so you've got Roslyn Chapel there, and wow, just, you know, the architecture, unbelievable.
Well, the
Very
Roslyn
similar
Chapel that you look at allegedly is only maybe half of what it was originally intended to be by the Sinclair family. But then obviously the Reformations came along, stuff like that, and they were told, if you want to keep your land, the Sinclairs were told, no more, naughty, naughty, don't be building more on that chapel. And that's why it lies the way it does today. But the original plans were meant to be far, far greater. And of course, you're talking here about the warrior knights, the Knights Templars who were over in Jerusalem. And like I said, eventually ended up in Scotland. And being Scottish, you really should kind of tip the hat to the Knights Templar, because they were one of the main reasons, one of the biggest impetuses behind Scotland's most famous victory over the English at Bannock.
That's right.
Because we were so outnumbered, but with their fighting history and the tactics and the skills that they brought to the people in Scotland, well, we were able to overcome them that day.
Right. Just the whole history of the Knights Templar is a very interesting tale, for sure. And if you don't know about it, you should check it out. I mean, there's plenty of documentaries that will kind of detail the history and eventually how they got to England and why they got to Scotland, and finally that's where they built. Well, that's where Johnny's great grandfather built Roslyn Chapel with his own two hands, brick and mortar, and then, you know, of course, his great grandmother made him tea, which eventually got passed down from generation to generation until Johnny became the family tea maker, which is good. Interestingly enough, though, Kev, over in the United States, we have our own version of Roslyn Chapel, albeit a little bit newer, in the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. Because over here in New York City, we've got gargoyles and all sorts of stuff, almost like what I'm sure the Sinclairs envisioned Roslyn Chapel to be. Because if you go to St. John the Divine, it's unbelievable, you know? So that's why I think there's centers all over the world where, almost like power centers. And Roslyn Chapel, of course, being one. St. John the Divine over here in the United States. And I'm sure if we do some research, we could probably find others that kind of fit the mold here. So, I mean,
these cats were taking back information from like the Kabbalah, the old mystery schools, stuff like that. And of course, they eventually went on to become the Freemasons. But that's another story altogether. But I must admit, Johnny, if I'd been at Roslyn Chapel today, I don't know if I'd have made it home in time for Freaky Friday, because that Roslyn Inn, which sits quite near to Roslyn Chapel, famous people visited that over the years, and I think I'd have got stuck in there after my trip to the chapel, dude. I really did.
Kev, it's one of these things that you don't want to come out, do you know what I mean, once you go, because there's just so much to see. Do you know, if I could have paid more attention to actually looking at the things than trying to find photographs, I think I might have enjoyed it more. Do you know what I mean? But I wanted to get the pictures, because some of the things that are on these walls, Kev, man, you would not believe.
So Scotty Lopez, Johnny King, what do you guys think of Roslyn Chapel? Something to see there, or just a good story out of Dan Brown?
Well, I don't know. I mean, what blows me away is the complexity, you know, of the carvings, the detail, and the geometric complexity that you see in a lot of the architecture. It's pretty mind-blowing. You know, it just makes you wonder if the geometry itself, you know, what's all being sort of encoded within the geometry of the architecture. It's quite mind-blowing. And I also I'm interested. Did you notice anything kind of like weird with the acoustics while you were in there, Johnny? Like when people were talking?
Did you start chanting while you were there, dude?
No, there wasn't any chanting. It was just a big burly lady doing the tour, and her voice
How about
did
like yodeling?
resonate.
Did you try
very
yodeling
much.
while you were in there?
No, they would have thrown me out, Joe,
Damn it.
unfortunately. And I wanted to get some good pictures, so I had
I mean,
to
was
stay a bit
like
longer.
when people talked though, I mean, was there like an echo? Could you hear that possibly, like, say if somebody were to start, chanting or something like that, would it resonate really, really well in there? Because I think a lot of this stuff, a lot of the architecture of these buildings has a lot to do with, frequencies and cymatics and stuff like that. So that I was just kind of curious.
No, it's actually, today, there was too many people in. It was like a queue for an execution. There was hundreds of people trying to get in. So it was a lot of noise. Do you know what I mean? People would, so you couldn't really make out anything. But the thing about that is it has been in some really bad shape, because quite a lot of it's been underwater as well. Was some of the stuff that they had to take off it, bats, bat droppings were actually ruining all the stone because it's like limestone that they used. So they had to do a hell of a lot of work in it. So I think maybe the acoustics, they're definitely not what they could be, Scott.
Let's get Johnny.
Because of the work.
Let's get Johnny King in before the break. John, the Knights Templar, plenty we could say there. Roslyn Chapel. What's your thoughts on what you're hearing so far, man?
Well, I think Mr. Brown wanted to sell a book, so I think he did a bit of playing up to help his book sales. As far as the Holy Grail, I'm drinking my soda out of it right now.
Oh, that's right. You got to remember, Kev, that, where the Masonic, traditions have the levels, right? So you've got 32, 33, that kind of thing. Well, in witchery and warlockism, you have levels. And Johnny King is like a 63rd degree freaking warlock. So you got to remember, he knows this. He's there. He's probably drinking out of it right now.
But you know that Whistle's been a Templar just trumps all of the warlockery that...
It's not trumping, dude. It's more like you got the Elks Lodge and you got the Moose Lodge, right? They're two different lodges. They both have cheap drinks. They both are clubs where people go to have, fun, and they do crazy things, and it's members only. It's the same thing, right? You got the Templars, the Johnny's Club, the Elks, and then you got the Moose, the witch coven that Johnny is the head dude on with the funny hat and the assless chaps.
Joe, you're just jealous because the oldest thing in your town was a bowling alley they opened in 72.
72? Oh no, dude, Candlepin in the 40s. You got to remember the Paisans brought that over from Italy.
What do we think?
Bocce originally. Yeah.
Do we think the Templars left from Scotland to go to, wait for it, Oak Island?
Ooh. You said Oak Island.
Where do you think that falls on the timeline?
Went there.
Oh, man.
Do you think they were there first? Do you think that was another...
When was Roslyn Chapel built?
It was built
1446.
Exactly.
I think now doesn't Oak Island predate that?
See, that's what I'm honestly not sure. That's why I was asking the question.
I think Oak Island is in the 1400s also.
Is that right? I know it's got to be right around then. I think it's before Columbus.
But the reason I ask is because when you look at some of these carvings, and we were showing Scott this last night, and I'll post one in the chat room as well. Some of the stone carving, it depicts corn. Now, at the time, 1400s corn in Scotland. No, not many people had heard of that. In fact, no one had. So how on earth's name did these people who came allegedly from the East end up putting carvings in there that was of things that were found further west?
That's a good question.
Guys, you got to remember that Washington, D.C. was built and designed by Freemasons, so it's possible that these artifacts could be inside the walls of the original White House, which is still standing today, or anywhere in Washington buried for that matter.
So so was there any validity to the movie National Treasure?
Good movie.
Oh,
Could
great
be.
movie. But I mean, I never would have thought that the Templar treasures would be here in the United States. But now, Johnny King makes a good case for it. Yes. Actually, it was kind of a half-assed case, I'll be honest with you. But still, I could buy it.
No, I buy it. No, I buy it. I mean, I think the Templars made their way to the Americas, and I think they set up a lot of encampments and bases. And I think if there was anything that they wanted hidden from their expeditions, you know, in the Crusades and any relics that they might have had, I mean, what better place to hide it than, you know, the New World?
It's a very, very good point. And, you know, perhaps that may be the mystery that lies beneath Oak Island. We're on the break already, gents.
Oh,
One
my.
segment gone, I can't believe it. But we'll be back after these short and amusing messages.
Yeah.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
No hate, no hype, no fear. Real people, real radio.
Welcome back to all you Wookiees who are tuned in to tonight's Freaky Friday, right here on Truth Frequency Radio, www.tfrlive.com. I can't believe the chat room tonight. It is absolutely on fire. You can find that at tfrlive.com/chat. Now, Johnny, you were taking lots of pictures today. The chat room there, absolutely loving them. But you mentioned a pillar in the first segment of the show, and I'd love for you to kind of describe that to the wider audience out there over on TalkStream Live, TuneIn Radio app, all that kind of stuff. Please tell them the kind of intricacies of this pillar that you were talking about.
Well, I just posted a picture in the chat there, Kev, of a pillar. Now, one thing, if you turn it on its side, Kev, this pillar, you can almost see it as like the, you know what I mean, a waveform that musicians would use, do you know what I mean, to write music. It's just amazing. But the bottom of it, Kev, has got these weird creatures that seem to be eating themselves. And that was another one that got me. There's ones up the top as well, but the guy was too near me and I couldn't get the camera out to take the top ones. But I posted one in the chat there, and you can see that some of these are actually beginning to eat part of the pillar. It's amazing. It's just fantastic. The thing is, what I love about this, Kev, is you can actually go up and touch this thing. It's not as if you're not allowed to touch it or anything. So, running your hands along this kind of it really is super intricate work. The amount of things that are on it, Kev, this apprentice, he said that he got the idea from a dream that he had, and that's what he put into the work on that pillar. But it's just phenomenal, mate. It really is.
Wow. And, you know, you said you touched it there, Johnny, and Mike in the chat room saying, did you feel it? Did you feel anything when you touched it?
No, see, that's the thing. I didn't.
I only asked that.
I didn't feel anything. Do you know what I mean? I actually was. I was wanting to feel something, Kev. I was, but there wasn't anything. I couldn't feel it at all. So maybe.
It might seem a strange question, John, but as you know, I mean, we've had guests on here before who have touched their head against the kind of Great Pyramid and had instant downloads of information, stuff like that. That's why I asked that question. And I mean, I'm with you on this, Scott. I think there's a lot of acoustics to Roslyn Chapel, and I'd love to. It's impossible to do, but I'd love to do some kind of guerrilla work, go in there at night with some kind of acoustical testing gear, see what is going on in there, see what the frequencies are doing. And I would love to figure out, Scotty boy, what these codes, the cymatic codes, are all about.
Yeah, and you know, like Johnny said, I'm sure the acoustics have degraded over time, and it probably doesn't resonate as well as it did when the chapel was originally built. But still, I mean, yeah, it's very interesting, and it is interesting that he said that the guy designed that based off of a dream that he had. So it sounds like one of those weird sort of downloads that somebody, got during the night, and then they felt that they needed to carve it in stone and represent it. So really interesting.
Well, you need to go, Mr. Kevin. So your mum's already been there as well, Kev. So
yeah, what are you waiting for, Kev? I mean, here you live like how far away is that damn thing from Glasgow?
A couple hours tops.
Couple hours, right?
Right.
Okay, so what are you waiting for?
There's no like major big stumbling block. I don't have some like Roslyn phobia.
I didn't know if see, that's the thing. I didn't know if maybe there was some trepidation there.
It's not my list with clowns and things like that. It's something I've always meant to do. And I'm sure everyone in Scotland at some point has always had an urge to go and check out Roslyn Chapel. And I promise everyone out there, I will do that.
Now, there's a tinfoil hat rumor out there that if you wear assless chaps and dance around the altar 13 times, that a secret compartment will open up and you will see what the Holy Grail really is.
Only if you roll up one of the trouser legs of your chaps like a true Mason. She is actually going to Edinburgh next year, and she says she is going to drag me to Roslyn Chapel. So even if I did want to get out of it, you guys have outed me now. I'm stuck.
Well, the only reason why I say is because, you've got Aleister Crowley that follows you around now. And
I think maybe this is a bit of a kind of subconscious stumbling block of going to any location now, because, I can't say for sure that all of my hell that ensued after going there was down to going to Boleskine House. However, it certainly puts it in the back of my mind that you need to be very careful what you're doing when you're going on these investigations.
Yeah, for real, dude.
Absolutely.
I went down the crypt, Kev, and that's quite a freaky place because a lot of the crypt is where they keep some of the stones and the gargoyles that actually fell off. And I posted a picture in chat earlier, and I'll do it again because wait to see this thing, Kevin. This is in the crypt. It's a skeleton. That's I'm not sure if it's actually fighting with someone, but wow, do you know what I mean? In the crypt, yet all the other stones have always got like children and things like that, and then there's this thing. Do you know what I mean? It's quite freaky when you see it.
And you know what always gets me? Why is there always gargoyles and evil-looking stuff on these alleged houses of God, Joe?
Man, that's the whole thing about organized religion and all. It just gets all kind of crazy and hokey. That's why I don't like getting involved in that stuff. But there can't be, don't let your eyes deceive you. What you see is a demon. And a demon, to me, typically is bad. So, some people don't think so. For people like for Johnny example, demons have their purpose, right? It's more of a, purposeful thing. But, certainly not what you would consider, something good and that you would relate to a church or a house of worship with, right, Johnny?
Well, it's perfectly logical that they would put these things out there and display in the church.
Now, why would they do that?
Because back then people were very superstitious. They very spiritual and religious, and these were reminders, especially on the outside of the church, of your mortality and what waits for you beyond. And it helped keep the people in line. Now, as far as what you were saying earlier, Joe, about 13 was actually up until about the last 200 or 300 years was actually a lucky number. And it became associated with an unlucky number due to the fact of Jesus and his disciples, 13. So people started to equate that as being unlucky. But before then, 13 was a very, very lucky number, much more so than the number 7. However, if you want a spell to do it, the Roslyn Chapel, Very easy to do. Don your assless chaps and march around the altar counterclockwise, humming "I'm a Little Teapot," and you're sure to get free room and board, courtesy of the state.
I'm looking at that picture that John posted of the skeleton and stuff like that. I mean, I can't figure out. It's beyond me why that would be in some kind of chapel. It truly is.
It's like a skeleton chasing a child who's playing.
It's like, it's like a big scythe he's on them, and then there's a child standing on some kind of balls or something like that beside it, and that is just uber weird, John.
Well, this was done during the times of the Black Plague and things when child mortality was very high, and people needed to be reminded every day to submit to the church. And this was one way without the Pope, who was absolute supreme ruler at that time, had more power than a king or queen, to submit their power over the people without actually having to come out with a stick and beat you over the head.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Now,
it was basically a form of psychological warfare, trauma-based mind control, right? Always remind them of, what awaits them if they continue to sin and things like that. So yeah, that's basically all it is. It's psychological warfare. It's trauma-based mind control.
Yeah, but it's absolutely crazy.
See, I'm not buying it on the home of the Templars. If they built this place as some kind of monument, some kind of place to house their relics, even for a short time, I mean, I just don't get this side of it. The fact the gargoyles and the demonic kind of depictions and things like that, it just doesn't balance out for me. I don't know why.
Absolutely, dude. Over here in the United States, we've got, again, St. John the Divine. And talking about the different worship services and the things that they do there, the architecture, it's crazy. I just sent you a picture in, one of their arches. There's these giant pyramids, with the Templar crosses right in the middle of it. And again, this is like the United States headquarters. If you take a look at some of the things that happen there, you have the architecture, you have the gargoyles, you have depictions of 9/11 on it that were put on the church before it happened. That's kind of crazy. And yeah, so you've got that kind of crazy stuff too. I mean, you can lose your mind in St. John the Divine, but it's the things that they do there that really kind of catch my eye, Kev.
I remember the first time you showed me that place, Joe, and I honestly thought it was something, a work of fiction. I really did, because it was even too out there for me. Talk about woo, man.
October 27th of this year, their annual procession of the ghouls takes place. Yeah.
I was just about to bring that up. I was about to ask, isn't that the place that has the procession of the ghouls?
Yeah, now that's October 27th. What they call it, let me see here, because I'm on their website right now. And
is that in New York, Joe?
Yeah, it's right in New York City. Yeah.
Well, St. John the Divine, guys.
What's that? St. John the Divine. That was John, the Revelator. John, the one that had revelation, that was on the island of Patmos. He was what they consider what's called St. John the Divine. And that's what that church is named after. But the things that they do, like, for example, they have morning prayer and yoga. Now, if you know Catholicism, you know that they are adamantly against Eastern medicine and that the whole Eastern religious, all that kind of stuff.
They believe it's demonic and that it opens you up to demonic entities.
Right. Exactly, because then you have the whole exorcism thing and all that, right? So
that's always troubled me, that as well. This whole thing that people practicing yoga may be demonic.
Well, interestingly enough, St. John the Divine is one of the headquarters of the Council of Churches, or the World Church. And they're advocating a one world religion. So how is it that the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, which is Catholic, have all of this stuff at the same time? You know what I mean? It's counter to any other Catholic church you go to anywhere in the world. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. You know, Pope doesn't say a damn thing about it. A procession of the ghouls in one of his churches? I mean, come on. If it truly is, you know, a house of God, then why would you be doing that? You know? So that's what makes that place stand out to me, is just the crazy stuff and how they're incorporating all the religions of the world basically in the structure of that church, which fine. Hey, knock yourself out. But it's just, again, it's an outlier, you know, certainly on the fringe of Catholicism, if you will.
Fringe, you can say that again. Johnny King, I think you want to chip in here, man.
Well, the Black Plague may have been 100 years before the thing was built, but it was still ingrained within the local memory. It would be like you, Kev, going to your grandmother, if she were still with us, and ask about the Spanish flu, which took place in the earlier part of the 20th century.
You see, I just see how the Templars leave the Middle East, come here, get to Roslyn. We're building a chapel with all of their knowledge and experience, and yet they decide, well, we're going to put the Black Plague into it. I just doesn't. I don't get that.
It's the same. I think it goes along the same lines as when the Egyptians built the pyramids. The builders put an inscription of a curse above the door of the tomb of the pharaoh to scare away anyone who would want to come and rob the tomb. It was a place to put fear in the hearts of the people.
Mm-hmm. But why do you want to scare people away from a chapel if you want them to come to it?
Well, if you're hiding
what if they didn't want people to come to it?
Of treasures that you've looted from the Middle East, you're definitely going to want to keep people from going in and taking the Grail or the Ark or anything else.
All right, Mr. King. Yes, I can.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I just find it incredibly interesting that you have these headquarters, if you will, or national centers for this kind of stuff. Roslyn Chapel, St. John the Divine. I just don't see other places throughout the world that incorporate this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and going back to that St. John the Divine, how you were saying that they kind of are advocating for a one world religion, right? You know, doesn't that all tie in with the whole Lucius Trust thing and all that stuff?
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah, and that right there is a wabbit hole all of itself. When you take a look at that and what it used to be, because before it was the Lucius Trust, it was the Lucifer Trust. So, and then you look into Alice Bailey, you know, oh, that's a wabbit hole and a half. And how the United Nations is the headquarters of the Lucius Trust, and how the Lucius Trust is the publishing arm of the United Nations. And why would something called the Lucifer Trust be that? And it goes on and on. Hey, by the way, since we're talking about this, you know, the Templars, all that kind of stuff. Do you guys truly feel that even today, do you think that the history of the Templars actually play a role in today's world events? Like, you believe like these are descendants that are pulling the strings, or is it like a thing of the past? You know what I mean? Are we past that?
No. I think this is one of those continuing sort of ordeals, right? I mean, look at let's take an example here.
Sure.
the Illuminati, right? The Bavarian Illuminati.
Yep.
I would definitely say that a lot of the actions of the Bavarian Illuminati continue to this day, right? So I would say that, given what the Templars were involved in and the influence that they had, and of course, their ties to Freemasonry and things like that, I would definitely say that agendas that they had continue on to this day. I totally believe that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, you had Adam Weishaupt. He was really pivotal, kind of commissioned by the Rothschild family to establish the Order of the Illuminati, which, of course, goes hand in hand with Freemasonry. And that's kind of where they developed. He was the one that really brought about the whole structure and goals of what the New World Order was going to accomplish. What they wanted or how they envisioned the world to be. And so he
boiled it down and condensed it into,
seven goals. Yeah. And of course, those were abolition of all ordered governments, meaning the dissolution of nationalism, which I believe it or not, I support that. I can't stand this whole idea of borders. And I don't envision it the way that these people do. I envision it more along the lines of,
you want to take borders away? That means we'll have to merge with the English, dude. I'm not having that.
Oh, come on. It could be worse.
Johnny, tell them we don't do that.
There is absolutely nothing worse than that, Joe. That's like us saying hello and welcome to the Queen. It's not happening.
Yeah, but you can do that with...
How about a voluntary society? If people want to segregate themselves, then allow them to do it.
That's
okay. Want to segregate.
Definitely. But then they need a place to go. And then the whole thing with borders is, it's kind of, I don't know, it's archaic. I kind of think we could get over that whole thing.
Joe, you realize you've just insulted every Scottish person that's listening tonight.
Lies. All lies.
Word, we have to merge with
let's build a wall.
Whoa. Because then you would have nothing to argue about, because England and Scotland would be gone. So what would you argue about?
Oh, no, we would
nothing.
Argue, dude. We would still argue. It's in our DNA. It's encoded into us that we'll argue.
Okay, well, hey, that would...
You see, it's totally alien to you boys over there. I understand that. But, Johnny, over here, it's a kind of source of great passion, right? We're not merging with England. In fact, we're doing all we can at the moment to try and break away from them.
No, you're not. You're not. Otherwise, you wouldn't have put Nicholas Sturgeon.
Coming here.
You wouldn't have put Nicholas Sturgeon in there.
No, don't start me on her. It's Freaky Friday, Joe. It's not a sordid Saturday.
You're telling me she's not freaky?
Oh, she's freaky, but that's show altogether.
Well, some of the other goals are the abolition of private property. Again, you see that with something that people don't understand is these large transfers of wealth that happen, all these crashes, all these depressions. All that's designed to slowly over time just take away that private property and concentrate it in the hands of the control freaks. So you got that, right? Then they want to do away with inheritance. That's why you have these big inheritance taxes and all that kind of stuff. They want to abolish patriotism. They want to abolish the family, a la 1984, Brave New World, all that kind of stuff. Abolition of religion, a la form your one world religion. And the creation of a world government, which, is what we have the United Nations today. And eventually, why not have that world governing body? That's what they want. Because the larger that you can make this thing, the more, believe it or not, the easier it is for them to control it. I know it sounds kind of crazy. It's kind of bass-ackwards, but that's actually how it works. Because it's very easy to foment chaos. And they're saying, out of chaos, order. And then there was a Congress in 1782. It's where the Illuminati and Freemasonry kind of really joined forces. This was when they came together and said, hey, look, let's get this done. So 1782 is called the Congress of Williamsbad, or Wilhelmsbad. And there, the Comte de Virieu, an attendee, he was questioned about what happened at those events, at that Congress, and the tragic secrets that he brought back with him. And this is what he said, quote, I will not confide them to you. I can only tell you all this is very much more serious than you think. From time to time, according to his biographer, the Comte could only speak of Freemasonry with horror. So that was back in 1782. Nothing's really changed.
And you know, Joe, if we go back to 1727, I think we can find the birth of a group that gave birth to all of these other groups. And this is where Skype could get cut off and things, folks, because what I'm talking about is something called the Committee of 300. They're all known as the Olympians, and they were founded by the British aristocracy in 1727. Now, this group right here, this is the one you don't hear too many people talking about. Dr. John Coleman, he's written a book about the Committee of 300, the Olympians. They go by many other names as well. But if you're looking for a group that pulls the strings, not just back then, but right up until present day, and I'm talking about a group that gave birth to things like the UN and all these other shadowy groups that people point at and say rule the world, this is the group, the Committee of 300. And their inner circle is actually the Order of the Garter. Now, the Order of the Garter, that's a highly Freemasonic kind of sect, and all the British royals have been part of that at one time or another. Prince William, he was the 1000th member of the Order of the Garter, and they are the inner circle of the Committee of 300. We'll lay out some of their goals after the break if I don't get shot beforehand. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
We are TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back, everyone, to this week's Freaky Friday, right here on TFRlive.com. The Woo Crew are absolutely on fire this week. We started off at Roslyn Chapel, then we got into all the secret societies, and I brought up the Committee of 300. Now, to check out the real deep information on this, you have to go to people like Dr. John Coleman, who's written a book on this. And I remember listening to Clyde Lewis years ago, and he had Dr. John Coleman on the show, and they were getting into the Committee of 300, and they went to a break, came back from the break, and then the guest, Coleman, was acting very strange indeed. Turned out he'd been given a phone call during the break and had been told in no uncertain terms to cut short the broadcast because he was exposing the Committee of 300. And the reason he came across the Committee of 300 was he was working as an MI6 officer at the time, and he realized there was some hidden hand pulling the strings. And, you know, they put everything in documents, folks, but so many people tend not to look at these things that they just hide it in plain sight. And down in the National Museum, I believe it is, down in London, these documents that actually expose the formation of this Committee of 300 can still be read today. And Joe was going over some of the kind of key goals of this New World Order. And John Coleman, he put together a list, a quite extensive list of goals they have, but here are the top 10 aims of the Committee of 300. And it starts off with number 1, a one-world government, New World Order, with a unified church and monastery system under their direction. Not many people are aware that the one world government setting up its church in the 1920s and 30s, for they realized the need for a religious belief inherent in mankind to have an outlet, and therefore set up a, quote, church body to channel that belief in the direction they desired. Number 2, the utter destruction of all national identity and national pride. 3, the destruction of religion, and especially the Christian religion, with one exception, their own created religion, a one world religion that we mentioned before. Number 4, to control each and every person through means of mind control and what Brzezinski called technotronics, which would create human-like robots and a system of terror beside which Felix Dzerzhinsky's Red Terror will look like child's play. 5, an end to all industrialization and production of nuclear-generated electric power in what they call, quote, the post-industrial zero-growth society. Exempted are the computer and service industries. Now, the United States industries that remain will be exported to countries such as Mexico, where abundant slave labor is available. Unemployables in the wake of the industrial destruction will either become opium, heroin, or cocaine addicts, or become statistics in the elimination process we know today as Global 2000. And I suppose that would be Agenda 21. 6, the legalization of all drugs and pornography. 7, depopulation of large cities. 8, suppression of all scientific development except for those deemed beneficial by the committee, especially targeted as nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. Particularly hated are the fusion experiments presently being scorned and ridiculed by the committee and its jackals of the press. Number 9, caused by means of limited wars in the advanced countries and by means of starvation and diseases in third world countries, the death of 3 billion people by the year 2000. Now, this was obviously written a while ago. And number 10, to weaken the moral fibre of all nations and to demoralise workers in the labour class by creating mass unemployment. As jobs dwindle due to the post-industrial zero-growth policies introduced by the Club of Rome, demoralised and discouraged workers will then resort to alcohol and drugs.
Yeah, imagine that. And also, Kev, think about this, how AI plays such a pivotal role in accomplishing that goal. Because if you keep the same system in place, it surely would create a huge crisis. It's starting to now. We're starting to see in the labor markets how this technology is starting to replace things. Here's a great example of it. I recently saw a Metro article, and I've been getting bombarded with ads about Google Pixel, their first phone. And Google Pixel Buds, the earphones, will now translate foreign languages in real time, dude. It is a universal translator. And
that's like what they've got in Star Trek, dude.
Totally. Okay, so wait a minute. It's like that was 23rd, 24th century or whatever. This is happening now. Now, this is very bad news for translators all over the globe. Anybody that, makes money, earns a living being a translator, a foreign language expert, because now, sorry, we got Google to take care of that for us, so we don't need you anymore. Slowly but surely, people are going to start losing their jobs, and human labor will become obsolete as the result of this, leading to exactly what they said. Only it's going to be accompanied by what's called universal basic income. They're going to try and keep this system in place for as long as they can, so they introduce a universal basic income, and now people have all the time in the world to play their Xbox and engage in debauchery. And but it won't be Xbox, because as fast as the universal translator came around, you're also going to have the virtual environments where people just strap plug in, jack in. Maybe they won't even have to jack in. Maybe it's just an implant that they have, and That's it. And they access the internet. They can access the reality that they want to go to, and they just lose themselves. And
yeah,
they're going to do their avatar.
They're going to do whatever they can to make the population feel satisfied, like they're living a satisfied life. The conveniences and comforts, right? When they're not even really doing anything. So, as Kev was just reading with this whole Council on 300 or Council of 300, their goals. Of course, this was written a long, long time ago, but you can see how it's being implemented and how they're sort of adapting and finding new ways, because as technology, increases and as technology changes, they're getting a better grasp on how to actually implement this. So it's really, it's one of those things, and of course, I've been saying it for a long time, right? Yeah, they're going to start plugging people into the matrix, getting people to jack in. And once you get people jacked in and they're
it'll be a lot easier. It'll be a lot easier to control once people do that. But even more so, I kind of equate it to analog and digital. It's the same thing. Whereas we live in a matrix now, don't get me wrong, where our reality is engineered, only it's done so by, the television, by propaganda, the Operation Mockingbird, like control of the media, that kind of stuff. Even your social media. Look at what YouTube's doing with censorship, with changing their search algorithms and everything else. They're trying to bring about and maintain that narrative or that matrix. They're creating the matrix as it goes. They're creating the reality. And what better way to do that?
Exactly. And what better way to implement a depopulation program without people fighting back, right?
Exactly.
When you get the population to a point to where they don't even really care or pay attention to what's going on around them, what's happening to their neighbors, what's happening, just in their own local areas, people can be dropping dead all around them, but as long as they're plugged into the matrix, they really don't even know or even care.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. There's no what do I care about procreating? I don't care about procreating. This it takes care of everything for me.
Yeah, I have everything.
What the hell do I have to worry about?
I have everything I need when I'm plugged into the matrix. And
really, at that point, it only takes a generation, and you've totally decimated the population.
Exactly. Yeah. But why go out and get married to a real woman whenever you can have your dream woman in the matrix, right? It's just it's crazy, and we're rapidly heading into that direction. You can already see a lot of what's going on with VR, right? Of course, as soon as this whole VR revolution started blowing up and everything, and they were implementing it, what's one of the very first things that they start doing with it? VR pornography, right? VR girlfriends, things like that. So definitely it's going to be one of those control systems where just people can have all of their desires and they really don't care about going out into the real world.
No, absolutely. I was just kind of taking a look at some of the, we're talking about the AI and all that and the technology, but also look at it for warfare. A lot of people go to the military to, establish a career, get money for college. That's really the reason why they go. They don't think about the real reasons that they're actually doing what they're doing. And with the emergence of AI, drone technology, automation, autonomy, now all of a sudden, who cares? Why do we need humans on the battlefield? We don't need humans on the battlefield. We'll just freaking send our drones. We'll have AI ships, robot ships, automated ships. Right now, used to be that, at least on my ship, you had almost 300 people on the ship. That was for the smallest combatant in the Navy at the time. And now through automation, you have ships the same size with 80 people running it. and soon that number will dwindle even further. And a lot of people that rely on the military as this kind of like, oh, well, if I can't find a job here, well, I'll just join the military. That may not be an option, So again, that goal of doing away or making human labor obsolete, we're watching it now in real time take place. And it'll be interesting to see where people shift their focus to when they can't work or when that universal basic income is established. Yeah,
and they put out this thing like, okay, well then everybody will have their universal basic income, and then somehow everybody is going to be this their mind is going to be unlocked, and that everybody's going to be contributing to scientific discovery and art and all of this stuff. But unfortunately, I hate to say that's not what it's going to be. You're going to have a very small percentage of people who will dedicate their time to the betterment of humanity.
Absolutely.
But the vast amount of people, they're not going to do crap. They're not going to do anything. They're just going to sit around, take in their universal basic income, and veg out in their VR. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. Not everybody can be a winner. That's just not how nature works. That's just not how reality works. Not everybody is going to
life's not fair.
Yeah, not everybody is going to be a groundbreaking scientist coming up with brilliant ideas and inventions. That's just not how it's going to work. So you're going to have this massive majority segment of the population that, unfortunately is not contributing to anything or doing anything. And as time goes on, they're going to see that and they're going to be like, you know what? Well, we need to do something about that. And that's
do you think
depopulation.
Do you think that you're going to have, let me ask you this, Scotty, do you think that you're going to start to see maybe that factional split where you have society a la Brave New World, and then you have the outliers, the ones that are on the outside that, that didn't want to participate, but they were viewed as savages. Do you see that split going on?
Yeah.
Because I do.
Yeah. I mean, you already see it now in a way, right? I mean, that's basically what preppers are, right? People who have made the choice of, you know what, I'm going to isolate myself in a rural area.
Yeah, but I wonder if they're going to hasten, if they're going to hasten a war or whatever, to try and snuff that out. Especially if they're talking about doing away with private property, right? So,
yeah, and that all ties in with was it the rewilding of America government taking land, pushing people into high population centers and mega cities, Agenda 21, right? Because they don't want people to be in rural areas taking care of themselves. You have to push people into dense, high population areas, mega cities, and it's easier to control them because in a mega city, you can't grow gardens or anything you have to depend on supplies coming in for the people. And generally, I would say those supplies are going to be controlled by the government. And so they can hold that over people's head in the mega city. I mean, what, are you going to plant a garden in the middle of a concrete jungle? That's just not feasible, and that's how they're going to control people. And it'll be one of those things to where if you're caught on federal land, they're going to remove you. I mean, it's just like that now. I mean, look at what is it like? Over 80% of the Western United States is owned by the government. You get caught on federal land, you get arrested. So there's going to be nowhere for people to go. And with all this drone technology, all of this spy technology, surveillance technology, they're going to be able to just look down at areas and see where people have settled, if there's a settlement somewhere, and then they're going to go and remove them from it. I guess the next the next step would be to try to set up something underground or something. It's crazy, but yeah, I mean, I think that's where that's going to go. You're going to have people that are going to be pushed into these high population mega cities. They're going to be plugged into the matrix, and then you're going to have the outliers, like you say, the ones that are are not going to play the game, and they're going to try to survive outside of that matrix system.
Not me, my friend, not me. You see, this is the secret behind my pro-Elon Musk stance, Scotty. I'm fully intending on getting one of his Dragon capsules and getting the hell out of Dodge, man.
Yeah, what if they just decide to, leave the peons down on Earth and then start their new world order on Mars?
The Elysium? Yeah, the Elysium thing. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, also, Kev, why not just wait a couple more years and just walk through a portal?
Because
that's all I'm saying. Why even try? Why do the whole space travel thing and get cancer and all that crap? Nah, I'm just gonna walk through a portal.
I'm not getting cancer, dude. I'm going to Venter first. He's going to splice my DNA with some. Did
you see the Forbes party? The Forbes birthday party for Forbes magazine. They had like a 25th anniversary Forbes magazine. They had all these billionaires, and wouldn't you know it, the very short A-list included Dr. Craig Venter. He was there.
He's the guy that they're all hoping is going to crack the code to eternal life.
He's their guy, dude.
Between him and another guy called George Church, these two are people that you have to keep an eye on in the world of bioengineering.
Yeah.
And if it comes to splicing humans with other DNA, these are the cats that are already doing it, Joe.
He's they say his net worth is $300 million. Craig Venter.
And the rest.
Yeah, I mean, but does he crack the code? I don't know. He owns that. He owns that company. I can't remember what it's called. The
longevity or something.
Longevity. Yeah. So, certainly trying to make waves there. I think he is very successful. I know they sell supplements and things like that, but
I mean, don't discount this guy. I mean,
I don't. Yeah.
Synthetic life. He has got things alive on this planet right now, be it in forms of bacteria or whatever else, that were never, ever in existence until him and his computers came up with that unique, brand new DNA code. This guy, I mean, you could probably say, you could look at it both ways. The amount of diseases and things like that cracking the human genome could lead to, brilliant stuff. But then you see him hanging out with all these billionaires and you realize there's another game afoot here, Joe.
Oh, there's most certainly another game afoot. You know that, dude. You most certainly know that. Hey, I got something else, too, since we're talking about technology and everything like that. You said Elon Musk. Well, of course, Jeff Bezos is another one that's really trying to take over things.
Bozo.
Yeah, well, did you know that now Amazon, the giant Amazon, is on the brink of making the decision if it's going to sell drugs online? And that is going to take it into the next. I mean, they're really becoming like the one-stop shop for everything. Almost like the Taco Bell of Demolition Man. They won the restaurant wars, so now every restaurant's a Taco Bell.
And he's another one that's invested heavily in that Ambrosia startup. That's the company that does the young blood, yet literally vampiring blood off the young folks.
Which they said, the Red Cross, Kev, interestingly enough, since you said that, came out and said there is a huge shortage, and I found this odd. They said there's a huge shortage of young donors, of young blood. The slew of it's all old, but they don't need it. They want the young stuff.
I'm wondering if there's a shortage of it or whether it's because all of these elite animals have been using it for this precise purpose. Because, we know for a fact that they are doing this. I played a clip the other night on the show with Johnny, and it was from a very popular sitcom called Silicon Valley. And they were blatantly sitting there, one of these tech gurus who's depicted in the show, he's getting a presentation to him about how they're going to revolutionize the internet. And while he's sitting there listening to the presentation with these guys from a startup company, a young gentleman walks in, sits down beside him, and starts wiring up an IV, and then wiring the IV into the billionaire guru. And everyone's kind of looking at him going, what the hell are you doing? Well, you know you've made it in Silicon Valley when you've got your own blood boy, guys. And this is what they're telling you in actual TV shows.
Right. It's unbelievable. And it's all done in plain sight. And no one is saying anything. So, I mean, it kills me. We're really at the cusp of, through the blood transfusions and also the CRISPR-9 gene editing technology, really on the cusp of revolutionizing humanity.
I'm going to play this clip again because obviously we've got a far bigger audience tonight. And I think this really encapsulates what we're saying here because remember, this is programming. They're showing you this for a reason. And this comes from Mike Judge's Silicon Valley.
In building this peer-to-peer internet, the paradox that we're up against is that people won't want to participate until the quality is high. And the quality won't be high until the quality won't be high until we have a lot of people opt into the network. So that presents a little bit of a unique.
Continue.
Okay. It presents a bit of a problem. That we kind of need to build?
Richard, everything okay?
I don't know. Is it?
Oh, sorry, guys. Bryce, guys.
Actually, we've met.
Oh, hey, Donald.
It's Jared now.
So, Gavin, Bryce is
very discreet. Keep going. This is great.
Is Bryce your assistant?
No, of course not. He's my transfusion associate.
Which is?
Are you really not familiar with parabiosis?
Can't say that I am.
Well, the science is actually pretty fascinating. Regular transfusions of the blood of a younger, physically fit donor can significantly retard the aging process. And Bryce is a picture of health. Just look at him. He looks like a Nazi propaganda poster.
Oh.
So there you go. A transfusion assistant, Joe. Yes.
Very sick.
Very sick and hidden in plain sight.
I need a transfusion.
Have I shocked the Freaky Friday Woo crew into silence?
No, I knew they did it, but can you imagine? It's almost like having a oh God,
I've knocked you all off course. That's brilliant, Joe.
Having one that oh God, my transfusion assistant. I mean, think about it though. It is probably the most reliable way for a steady source of blood. Talk about doing away with the whole shortage. Hey, you know what? I'll pay. I'll give you a place to live. You can live, have a nice life. Give you an allowance of like $35,000 a year or something. All you got to do is give me a transfusion every once in a while. Yeah, it's almost like sex trafficking. Only it's blood piracy or I don't know what. It's crazy.
It is crazy, but folks, the real world is far stranger than fiction. And we'll be back on the other side to continue with this brilliant Freaky Friday. Don't go anywhere.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
You're listening to Truth Frequency Radio.
We are TFR.
Welcome back, everybody. It's halfway. We're just over the halfway point of Freaky Friday and your protection from deception. Truth Frequency Radio, truthfrequencyradio.com. And, Kev, interestingly enough, I have a story from over in the UK. You're right. Maybe you shouldn't merge with England. That's what I'm thinking.
Maybe about it, Joe.
Okay, because apparently a guy got arrested telling police that he's traveled back in time from the year 2048 to warn of an alien invasion. That's right. Brian Johnson.
Why hasn't he been on my show yet?
I don't know. Brian Johnson could be the human race's best chance for survival in the face of an alien invasion, but police have arrested him for being a drunk.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What's No, guys, but isn't that what would happen if some real legitimate time traveler turned up here? I mean, they're going to be locked up with a big jacket with the arms wrapped around the back, right?
Oh,
they're certified.
This happened in Casper, Wyoming. Oh, this is great. Apparently, there's not much to do in Wyoming. Police were called to an address in Casper, Wyoming, and found Bryant Johnson trying to convince people to leave town because of the impending alien invasion. He demanded to see the town president. In a plot twist, by the way, the worthy of time masterpiece 12 Monkeys, Johnson complained his time traveling had gone awry, as he meant to turn up in the year 2018, not 2017. Oops. No. KTW radio reported to police that the guy had bloodshot eyes, slurred, and smelled of alcohol. Yeah. Now, Brian's Facebook profile has an alien theme, and his profile picture was changed to that of an alien head back in July. So, you know what?
Go on, say it. He's a KBS listener. He's got KBS paraphernalia in his house and things. I know it, man. I know it.
You know it, dude. You know.
Come on, guys. We all know that bloodshot eyes and slurred speech are just a side effect of the time traveling process.
Oh, I thought it was of alien anal probes. That's exactly Rock and Rio in the chat room. And his father smelled of elderberries. Oh man. Yeah, so we are being visited right now by the forces of good that are trying to stem off an alien invasion. Yeah. Well, and apparently maybe alcohol's a little hard to come by in the year 2048, and he kind of went buck wild. Oh, hey, this must be that alcohol that we've read about so much. Let me try it.
I like how he asked. I like how he asked for the town president.
Can I ask how old he is? Does it say how old he is?
I think it was 26, 27.
Not too bad then. So he hasn't traveled back to a time where he's still alive.
No, but I mean, he obviously, he said he meant to show up in 2018 instead of 2017. But interestingly enough, he was able to make a Facebook page that's relatively aged. So, kind of hard to, But hey, probably a good guess for your show, dude.
Well, I've got a note of his name, and I'm certainly going to be checking out his social media when he gets out of jail. Look forward to him on KBS.
Oh man, that's great. And speaking of, so as if that's not enough fodder for you, I've got some more.
Oh, please, Joe, bring the fodder, bring the woo.
Because this might be just as unbelievable to you personally, Kev. Because a trio of physicists have won the Nobel Prize for gravitational wave detection.
Oh, here we go.
That's right.
They're making waves with this gravitational stuff, Joe. They really are.
Subtle cosmic vibrations kicked up by swirling black holes have captured the public imagination and the minds of the physics Nobel Prize Committee members too. Because 3 scientists who laid the groundwork for the first detection of gravitational waves have won the Nobel Prize. That's right, Rainier Weiss of MIT, Kip Thorne, and Barry Barish of Caltech will share the 9 million Swedish kroner prize, with half going to Weiss and the remainder split between Thorne and Barish. Now, through researchers... though researchers often wait decades for Nobel Prize recognition, the observation of gravitational waves was so monumental that the scientists were honored less than 2 years after the discovery. That's right. So it was so earth-shattering and so compelling, Kev, that they decided, hey, let's just speed this up.
I'm no fan of these gravitational waves, and you've got that big LIGO experiment and things like that. And don't at all let me affect how you kind of think about the universe out there. Just all I would say is go and take a look at the Thunderbolts project and their kind of theory of the electric universe. And there's things about that just make far much more sense than...
Now, I'm sorry. According to the Nobel Prize Committee, that is not... Sorry, no more Project Thunderbird. Nope, sorry. Gravitational waves all the way. You lose.
You're a gravity man, Joe.
No. I just like busting your chops.
I know you do, but I don't bite anymore, so it's quite fun. I remember a couple of years ago, I'd have been biting, ripping my hair out, slamming cups off the table, but no more, dude.
Weiss said this during a news conference at MIT. He said, if Einstein was alive, it would be absolutely wonderful to go to him and tell him about the discovery. He would be very pleased, I'm sure of it.
If Einstein was alive, how bloody old would he be?
Very old. He says, but then to tell him what the discovery was, that it was a black hole, he would have been absolutely flabbergasted because he didn't believe in them. Technically, why would we believe in them? Has anybody seen a black hole? Have you seen a black hole?
You know, this was quite encouraging recently in the New Scientist, the fact that they're about to get an image for the first time of the black hole at the center of our Milky Way.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
Now, at the time when they were going to some of the people who were producing this image, which they say will be a void, just a blob, a void in the photograph of the data, even they were saying, you know, what happens if once we get this image, we realize that it's not a black hole? What if it's something just as theoretical and from the blackboard of physics, again, something totally thought up in somebody's head, but equally as relevant as the black hole? What if it's a boson star? Now, when we went over the boson star at the time, again, a theoretical thing, but it displayed all the same kind of ingredients that you would find with a black hole. No light being emitted. It would just be a dark, heavy void in space. And it absolutely ticked all the boxes that people would tick when they're looking for black holes. And I was encouraged by the fact that here was a mainstream publication who were actually daring to say, just hold on a minute, maybe we've got it wrong. Okay, they were putting out something there just as theoretical, but at least they're showing they've got an open mind to the fact that they could take a look at something and be proven totally wrong. And you know, if black holes are the main game in town, I would love to know why Stephen Hawking is still waiting for his Nobel Prize. And that's because his black holes sit on a blackboard. They are pure theory, dude.
Oh, absolutely. And even you were talking to New Scientist. Scotty just sent a great article about gravity, that it actually may be created by strange flashes in the quantum realm, that it's a byproduct of quantum mechanics. And what that basically says is that, okay, now quantum mechanics is actually the more fundamental of the two theories, you know, quantum theory and gravity. So it looks like, Scotty, that there's actually a push, at least by what this article says, that quantum mechanics is more relevant.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and get into this article here because it's very interesting, because quantum mechanics and, you know, the whole gravitational theory, they've always been sort of at odds with each other. So I think what we're seeing here is maybe some research showing, you know, something that kind of will bridge the two together. Anyway, so yeah, this is from the New Scientist, and it says, gravity may be created by strange flashes in the quantum realm. A model of how waveforms of quantum systems collapse reveal a way that they could create gravitational fields and perhaps reconcile two pillars of physics. It says, how do you reconcile two pillars of modern physics, quantum theory and gravity? One or both will have to give way. A new approach says gravity could emerge from random fluctuations at the quantum level, making quantum mechanics the more fundamental of the two theories. Of our two main explanations of reality, quantum theory governs that interactions between the smallest bits of matter, and general relativity deals with gravity and the largest structures in the universe. Ever since Einstein, physicists have been trying to bridge the gap between the two with little success. Part of the problem is knowing which strands of each theory are fundamental to our understanding of reality. One approach towards reconciling gravity with quantum mechanics has been to show that gravity, at its most fundamental, comes in invisible parcels called quanta. Much like the electromagnetic force, comes in quanta called photons. But this road to a theory of quantum gravity has so far proved impassable. Now, Antoine Tilloy at the Max Planck Institute of Quantum Physics in Garching, Germany, has attempted to get at gravity by tweaking standard quantum mechanics. In quantum theory, the state of a particle is described by its wave function. The wave function lets you calculate, for example, the probability of finding the particle in one place or another on measurement. Before the measurement, it is unclear whether the particle exists, and if so, where. Reality, it seems, is created by the act of measurement, which collapses the wave function. But quantum mechanics doesn't really define what the measurement is. For instance, does it need a conscious human? The measurement problem leads to paradoxes like Schrodinger's cat, in which the cat can be simultaneously dead and alive inside the box until someone opens the box to look. One solution to such paradoxes is a so-called GRW model that was developed in the late 1980s. It incorporates flashes, which are spontaneous random collapses of the wave function of quantum systems. The outcome is exactly as if they were measured, if there were measurements being made, but without explicit observers. Tilloy has modified this model to show how it can lead to a theory of gravity. In his model, when a flash collapses a wave function and causes a particle to be in one place, it creates a gravitational field at the same instance in space-time, and a massive quantum system with a large number of particles is subject to numerous flashes, and the result is a fluctuating gravitational field. It turns out that the average of these fluctuations is a gravitational field that one expects from Newton's theory of gravity. This approach to unifying gravity with quantum mechanics is called semi-classical. Gravity arises from quantum processes but remains a classical force. There is no real reason to ignore this semi-classical approach to having gravity being classical at the fundamental level, says Tilloy. I like this idea in principle, says Klaus Hornberger at the University of Duisburg Essen in Germany, but he points out that other problems need to be tackled before this approach can be a serious contender for unifying all the fundamental forces underpinning the law of physics on scales large and small. For example, Tilloy's model can be used to get gravity as described by Newton's theory, but the maths still has to be worked out to see if it's effective in describing gravity as governed by Einstein's general relativity. Tilloy agrees this is very hard to generalize to relativistic settings, he says. He also cautions that no one knows which of the many tweaks to quantum mechanics is the correct one. Nonetheless, his model makes predictions that can be tested. For example, it predicts that gravity will behave differently at the scale of atoms from how it does on larger scales. Should those tests find that Tilloy's models reflect reality and gravity does indeed originate from collapsing quantum fluctuations, it would be a big clue in the path that to a theory of everything would involve semi-classical gravity. So that's very interesting, I would say. It appears that quantum would be the underlying force that generates everything else.
I think that stands to reason, because if you go to that quanta that you were talking about, Scott, that smallest kind of measurement that there is out there, and I mean, they say that everything is built from the kind of quantum level upwards, so surely quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and this is just a layman speaking here, but surely that then gives birth to everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would...
If that's right down below the subatomic level that everything's built upon, everything we know, all the molecules and particles, everything else, then surely it has to give rise to everything, the physical world, gravity, if you want to use that damn word, everything, man. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's really wild. I don't know. I kind of like the explanation myself too. That basically quantum being the trigger for everything makes sense to me.
I'm with you. Quantum the trigger for everything, but you know me and gravity, Scott. We don't get on well.
Well, then it would just be a matter of, it's just a way. Gravity is just a way of explaining a phenomenon, right? So, whatever it is, it's this quantum trigger that is creating the phenomenon.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. I mean, you mentioned Schrodinger and his cat there. And I remember the first time I really dived into this whole quantum physics thing. You know, at one point I was honestly sitting there thinking, if I close my eyes then, is everything still around me, even though I'm not observing it? You can open your eyes and you can see it again. That's cool. It's still there, right? But was it there when your eyes were closed? It's the same as that thing that people say, does a tree make a sound if it falls in the forest if there's nobody there to hear it?
Okay, so here's another interesting question, right? A lot of this quantum theory depends on observing the particle, right? Or observing things, and it brought up the question of, does it have to be a human consciously observing it? So what if we throw in AI into the mix? What if an AI is observing this? Does it change? Because is an AI conscious?
The minute it's measured, now here's the thing, I know where you're going with this, Scott, is an AI conscious, as an observer. It's that act of measurement, the fact you're actually in there now, that is a very good question. Would AI then collapse that wave particle duality? Wow, you've melted my mind, mate.
I mean, it's just one of those things to ponder. I mean, if you have an artificial,
I'm expecting that the minute you introduce something into that system to try and measure it, be it AI, whatever, it's going to collapse it. That's just my own kind of take on it.
Yeah, and at some point, a human would have to see the data. And I think as soon as you see the data,
you spoil the quantum woo. And for people who might not be into quantum physics, you might think it's above you, everything like that, whatever, boring, who cares? Go and check out What the Bleep Do We Know? And I'm telling you, that will have you questioning the physical reality around you. It really will. And I mean, you play first-person shooter games like I do, Scott, and you're playing these games and you can see the landscape and the environment in front of you, and you can turn round, you'll see the world behind you, but until you turn round to observe it, it's there and it's not at the same time, right? Because it's just sitting in code. And even
exactly.
You render it. You turn and you render your reality. Even
exactly, because to save computer resources, when you're not looking at an area of the scene, the computer completely removes those polygons to save resources, but you don't know that because you're not looking in that direction. But as soon as you turn into that direction, the computer renders those as if it has always been there.
And with computers now and the way the gaming is, Scott, I mean, there used to be a little lag. Some of the games you would play, it would take a couple of maybe microseconds to start filling in the blanks and things like that. But now it's instantaneous. That world just renders around you as you walk around.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Oh, it just the whole thing with
Here's the question then. How on earth's name could the universe have come into existence physically, solidly, without somebody here to observe it? I think we've lost Johnny Whistles.
Oh no.
There's something weird going on here, folks. Something weird going on kind of behind the scenes. We've lost Johnny Whistles. We know Johnny King had to go. He gave us a reason for that. Joe's away getting coffee, but it's just me and you again, Scott. Why does it always end up just me and you on a Friday? Do we smell?
I think the quantum void opens up, and only those with a strong enough fortitude can keep themselves from being sucked in.
Hurry up, somebody look at Whistles and somebody look at Joe. Render them, please render them. Or are they just part of Schrodinger's box?
They're here and they're not at the same time. They're in the Skype.
So, Scott, I mean, you were talking about the gravity there, and we often talk about electric universe. I mean, what's your take on that? I don't know how much you've looked into the electric universe model, but do you put much weight behind that at all? And it's not a load of... I mean, we're all allowed our own ideas, man.
No. I mean, honestly, I'll be completely honest. I haven't looked too much into it, so I don't really understand a lot of how the electric universe model works. But I'm open to different ideas. So I think it's completely plausible that an electric universe model could be responsible for all this. And, you know, the little bit that I have looked into, and that, I'll be honest, most of it that it has been explained to me has been explained to me by you, right? So
that's bad.
No, but I mean, I guess it would make sense. I mean, everything being electromagnetic, and you know, you're having positive and negative poles and things like that. So I'm just going to have to say I'm going to keep my mind open, because I really don't know enough about it to really say yes or no, you know, whether it makes sense to me or not.
Same here, Scott. I mean, tomorrow I could come across some new theory that absolutely resonates even better than the electric universe. And no matter what topic it is that you're looking into, folks, I think that's a really important kind of position to maintain. Keep your mind open, because there's always the chance that some new piece of information, some new evidence, some new technology might come along that provides us with a totally paradigm change. Do you know what I mean, Scott? And if you have got an open mind to that, it's all good and well. But if you're so invested in one theory over another, and then this new thing comes along, head blown.
Exactly. So, I mean, yeah, I think probably here in the next week or so, I'm going to actually do a lot more research into the electric model universe, because I mean, it really is something that I don't really have a grasp on. And like I said, I'll keep an open mind, because you know, you never know. But I do
Tesla was an electric universe guy, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, the ether that he was tapping into. Yeah.
So, I mean, it just I don't know. I think enough of his research kind of backs that up, you know.
I mean, as much as I like it and I kind of talk about it, I mean, I'm still open to the fact, Joe, that it could be something completely different. There's a part of me that thinks when you get to this kind of level of cosmology and stuff like that, the kind of stuff that the real deep kind of stuff we get into on Freaky Friday, there's a part of me that fears that us humans, us bags of 90% water, we really don't have the level of comprehension. And that's not speaking negatively of anyone listening to this show. It's just that we literally don't have the computing power.
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on?
Yeah, it's like trying to get an old Commodore 64 to do quantum calculations. We just are not capable of it. Well, but you know, I also think that, you know, when people come up with these theories, right, when they have that initial thought in their mind, I mean, they're putting that out there. So in a way, it's also a you know, we talk about being able to create our own reality and stuff. I think the fact that people are discussing these theories and thinking about them could possibly cause them to manifest.
This is why I laugh about CERN and places like that, Scott, because it seems to me that any theoretical particle that they come up with, if they look long enough, they're going to find it. Now, that begs the question, did it always exist? Or did they will it to existence?
Wow. That's a very good question. I don't know. Also, think about it in terms of collective computing. You know, if you put it out there, now all of a sudden you have more brains that are allocating resources to thinking about the problem. And if we are truly connected, then it would stand to reason that we would get farther if we're putting more computing power onto the problem. We'll be right back. One more hour to go on your protection from deception. It's Freaky Friday, truthfrequencyradio.com. We'll be right back.
You are now tuned into the Truth Frequency.
We are TFR. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. Hour number 3, right here on Freaky Friday. I'm Kev Baker. We've got Joe.
Yes, you are.
With us as well. Am I? I need to be observed. I truly do.
Yes, you do.
Scotty Lopez is here with us as well. And Johnny Whistles has now taken up the position of Schrodinger's.
Is he back?
He's with us. But is he there?
You're drinking woo-woo frozen cocktail, are you?
Well, that was posted in the chat room. I've seen that, and that's essential drinking for anyone who tunes into Freaky Friday. I only jest because I actually tried woo-woo a couple of years ago when I was up home visiting my mum. Not the best of tastes, and definitely not fuel for a Freaky Friday.
Sometimes the woo doesn't go down so good, Kev. You know that.
There you go. Even the woo at times doesn't go down well, Joe. Imagine that. Now, Scotty boy, you have been our storm chaser in recent weeks. We've got a new hurricane on the horizon, and I sent you a link there. I'm going to get your take on this, but New Orleans to be evacuated, Scott?
Not the entire city. It's only certain areas that are flood prone. And, you know, that whole area of the Gulf Coast, it floods very easily. In fact, I mean, New Orleans actually sits below sea level, and so they have to have a bunch of levees and flood control systems protecting the city. So it doesn't take much to cause flooding around that area. But, Nate is a tropical storm now. And it looks like it's going to shoot the gap in between the Yucatan Peninsula and Cuba, which means the center of circulation will remain over water. And it's going to go into the Gulf of Mexico, where the water still is extremely warm.
So it's going to go from a Cat 1 to a Cat 12 in like 10 seconds.
Yeah, with the way the storm season has been so far, and the way that the forecasters have always seemed to, it just seems like they've gotten a lot of these storm systems wrong as far as the intensity has went. I mean, look at Harvey, right? It was only supposed to make landfall as like a tropical depression or maybe a tropical storm, and next thing you know, we have a Cat 4 hitting Texas. So now
this thing looks like it's going to nail New Orleans head on.
Yeah, and I mean, regardless of if this thing is a tropical storm or a Cat 5 hurricane, people should be taking it seriously. I think people tend to I would say when it comes to the strength of they look at the okay, well, what category is it going to be? Oh, it's a Cat 1. Then they go, okay, well, then it's not going to be that bad.
The last 2 Cat 1s I was in, just to put it in perspective, it took 2 weeks to get my power back. So I mean, it's bad, especially if you live in coastal regions, because that's where hurricanes hit. Due to the high water table of the areas, you don't have underground power lines. Oftentimes you have them on poles. And that was the problem in our area, was everything was on a pole and all the poles had fallen down. So
yeah, and the category of a hurricane is solely based on wind speed. Right. We're not talking about the rain,
right?
The rainfall and the moisture that comes with these things. Sometimes you can have tropical storms that dump way more rain than some category 5s can. So the people need to not really pay attention to the category of a storm. Just know that a storm is coming, and it's going to cause a lot of problems. And so it doesn't surprise me in the least that they're already planning on evacuating certain areas around New Orleans, in Louisiana and stuff, because those areas, they're going to get hammered. You're going to have a lot of areas underwater. And, New Orleans, it continued. What a lot of people also don't realize is not only is New Orleans below sea level, but it's also sinking. The entire, that whole city is slowly sinking down, and they have to keep building on top of the levees I can't remember how many. I think since Katrina, New Orleans has sank 2 feet. So
is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So whatever they have planned, they build these levees, and over time these levees are sinking down too. So they have to just keep building on top of them. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I see there's a CBS News article done in 2005, November 18th. It says New Orleans is sinking. It says New Orleans may sit in the Gulf of Mexico in about 90 years. That's pretty impressive. It says for 300 years, the sea's been closing in on New Orleans. As the coastal erosion continues, it's estimated that the city will be offshore in 90 years. Even in good weather, New Orleans is sinking. As the city begins what is likely to be the biggest demolition project in U.S. history, the question is, can we or should we put New Orleans back together again? This was written right after Hurricane Katrina. It says life has been returning to the high and dry land on Bourbon Street, but to find the monumental challenge facing the city, it says the neighborhoods, the ones that they're evacuating now, or that they're going to evacuate, are really the areas that you have to worry about, because they're the ones that are sinking the fastest, the ones that you said they have to add on to the levees. And again, they predict that in about 90 years, the city itself, the main part, will be completely surrounded by the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's pretty fast.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, New Orleans is not located in a very good position.
It's sinking at the rate of 2 acres per hour. 2 acres per hour, or the Mississippi Delta is gobbling up the land at a rate of 25 to 30 square miles per year.
Wow.
That's fast.
That is fast. And so, I mean, I really do think that they have to start contemplating the fact of moving the city. I don't see how they can continue to sustain something like that. I mean, how would you prevent the land from sinking? How do you stop something like that? Yeah,
the only thing you could do is build up, just like you do to the beaches when they erode. Is you just got to bring in just dump truck after dump truck of sand, almost like they did with in China, off the coast of China, those islands, those man-made islands they built. All they did was dredge that up and then just build it up. I mean, you could do it, but it'd be expensive. You'd have to have a lot of resources go to build that area back up. And then you'd just be constantly fighting it the whole time.
Yeah, and so definitely this is going to exacerbate the situation and cause a lot of problems.
Oh, yeah. I'd imagine it would accelerate it in some fashion, right?
Oh, yeah, because it's going to saturate the ground, and when the ground's saturated, it's just going to sink faster. And
then I'm due to get hit with it on Monday afternoon as just a weather system at that point. But they're saying, good soaking rain Monday and Tuesday up in New England, so.
Yeah, it's gonna bring you guys a lot of rain and stuff, because by that time it'll be a extra tropical system, low pressure system. But yeah, I mean, right now though it looks like it's gonna make landfall as at least a Cat 1. But like I said, we have to keep an eye on it because I mean, just look at Harvey. It could do one of them crazy things where it just rapidly intensifies before it hits the coast. I mean, Katrina did the same thing. Katrina rapidly intensified right before it made landfall. So it's just one of those things. And a lot of these storm systems in the Gulf of Mexico do that, just because as they get closer to the coast, the water usually around the coastal areas is a lot warmer because it's shallower and it's able to absorb the sun.
I think, that's the other thing we have to pay attention to now too. Right now and in the immediate future is what's the sun doing, because that can also contribute to the intensification of this hurricane.
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting more intense sun rays,
or even like
that
a coronal
water
hole.
It's possible. it's possible. I mean, we know that was it particles from the sun have a direct effect on water vapor coalescing and creating rainfall. So
yeah, well, also Ben Davidson and the theory of Earth spots, how hurricanes and these depressions, these pressure zones, are really Earth spots, very similar to what the sun has, or the sunspots. And it's a pretty interesting theory. I think you can go to Suspicious Observers over on YouTube, but also they've got a great website, and all that information's on the YouTube channel. And then we have the meteor shower coming up. The Draconid meteor shower is tomorrow, or today for you guys over in the UK, and Sunday. So the Draconid meteor shower, hopefully you'll be able to see it if you got a clear sky. The next opportunity to see a meteor shower after that is October 21st. That's the Orionid meteor shower. And then, of course, we have the Taurid meteor shower on the 5th of November. And I think it's November 17th is the Leonid meteor shower. And then you have 2 in December. So there's plenty of opportunity to see these meteor showers. I just want to see if we actually get one that ends up being like Russia. Oh, no. Oh. See, it's one of those, that's the one thing that I've learned in my time doing research, independent media, is that these events never come where you're looking. So it never happens where you're looking. It's, man, the economy is going to blow up at any minute. Meteor shower. What? Oh, yeah, man, they're, chem spraying and everything else. Fukushima. What?
I know. Last year, there was a really spectacular meteor that went into Nebraska, and it created a sonic boom,
Oh, yeah.
And my mom had actually seen it, and she thought it was a flash of lightning when she was, just sitting outside in the backyard. And she came in, she's like, is there a storm? I thought I saw lightning. And I looked at the radar, no, nothing there. But then not too long later, they said that there was a spectacular fireball in Nebraska, and she saw it off to the north. So it would make sense that that's what she saw.
It's amazing how those things streak through the sky the way they do. And so fast. So fast. I mean, I can't even begin to describe just the speed that they go at. And then the other thing, too, is you ever notice it's never a straight-on trajectory. Like, it always goes across the sky, but they never go it's never like a straight-down drop. So that's the other thing I've always noticed with meteor showers. I've never seen one where it's like a dead-on collision. It's always kind of like it's a glancing blow that slides in. Almost like the atmosphere acts like a shield.
It does, and they actually bounce off.
Surely it would depend where you're standing, Joe. I know the footage that we see always shows them kind of streaking in, but surely there must be somewhere on the planet that you're seeing that.
Kind of looks like the Wile E. Coyote getting an anvil dropped on it.
It's coming right for you, man. Who knows?
Yeah, you need that yipe sign just to hold up right before it hits. Yipe. Hey, by the way, there was a request in the chat room. They want to go deep woo.
Oh no, where are we going? I like it when the chat give us topics, but
I am absolutely there is absolutely no breakaway civilization on Mars. I'm not buying it.
No,
not doing it. Can't.
I am
not going there.
I'm going there.
No way.
You know it. Not
happening.
Why not, Joe?
Total Recall. That's about as far as you're going with that.
No, I can't. I mean, I've not been there.
Okay, well, let's just say this: if there is, then everything that we know about Mars, of course, is rubbish. Which would give, I would buy that only because I saw the footage of where the Mars rover footage actually comes from, and it's like, damn. And then I saw the Martian landscape in Hawaii, where they just completed that isolation experiment for the people that are simulating a Mars mission.
Well, surely that then actually plays more into the fact
Well,
that
that's what I'm saying. That's got me questioning a little bit. Maybe they're hiding something.
Possibly. I mean, I do. I think there's a breakaway civilization. I just think when you look at the history of NASA, and in particular Werner von Braun, I mean,
how do you get away with it?
How do you get away?
How do you get away with having a space fleet or a ship that goes back and forth? You know what I mean? I just don't. How do you get by that?
Sides in a war, Joe. Who knows? But they do it.
Oh, I just don't. I don't know. It's the logistics. It's hard for me to understand how, logistically speaking, how you hide something like that. I don't know. Same with like the Martian. Oh, we've got, there's bases on the moon and all this kind of stuff. Okay. I would love to buy into that. I really would. And maybe there is. But damn it. You would think that there would be so much more evidence out there if in fact there was. Because to me, it would be just too hard to hide with today's technology and with the way we disseminate information. And in the chat room, of course, NASA, yeah, lies. Absolutely. It's totally fake. You know that. But at the same time, something of that nature and magnitude, I can't understand how they could hide it. You know?
I'm of the belief that the Nazis made it to the moon first.
You think so?
I totally think so. And I think that, the winner writes history, right?
Right.
So I don't think they would ever admit that they did do it, because then that would be admitting that our enemy had superior technology.
So then what we could say then is, right, if that's the case, and we do in fact have that, then it couldn't be with the conventional technology that we see right now, that we know of as.
Yeah, but when I'm saying that though, I'm not saying that the Nazis had moon bases. I'm just saying that they made it there.
No, but I'm saying that even then, Nazis aside, right? The whole Martian breakaway civilization, all that would have had to have been done with technology that humanity just can't comprehend right now, because it's not in the mainstream.
Well, then that plays into the whole Roswell crash and reverse engineering of alien technology.
Or Nazi Bell, that kind of, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And so then you're talking about NASA just sort of being the public front of what they want to show, while the actual sort of shadow operation goes on behind the scenes.
Or was NASA just a continuation of that Nazi program, science push? Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was. And, since they would have to basically start from scratch again, right? I mean, because you're bringing these scientists over from Operation Paperclip, and then you're having to start from a clean slate again. So it would make sense that, okay, they could get that level back again by the 60s. You bring them over. It takes them about 20 years to sort of reach that level again. I mean, I don't know. That it's just sort of my gut feeling on this. I really do think that the Germans achieved a lot more than what history puts out there. Like I said, the victor writes history, and I don't think we'll ever admit that they achieved a lot more than they really did.
Yeah, but it also just goes to show you the capability that exists to be able to mask an operation so huge. Really, I mean, it would be huge. That's not a small thing. It's not like the Jetsons where you get in your little your hover car.
Yeah, but I mean, look what they're able to achieve with everything else as far as black ops, and it's all compartmentalization.
Yeah.
A lot of people are working on it and don't even realize that they're involved in something a lot bigger. I mean,
but I could understand. I could understand Area 51. That's on planet Earth. You know what I mean? How do you keep that quiet? Mars, and it just there's a level of. I don't know if I could keep my mouth shut.
I'm still on the fence about the Mars thing. I don't know. I don't know if we're there or not.
Scott. I mean, you have to keep an open mind on everything. But you know me, I am the Woo Master. And Joe, I honestly think that if we were to be given the truth about everything out in space, it would be more akin to Star Trek than we would like to imagine.
You think that we've advanced that far that quickly?
I honestly do. I do. I can't prove it, but my gut feeling is that we are out there.
And I would have to think it would be utilizing that advanced technologies from other, whether it be interdimensional or other alien technology. You know, I would think that has to play into it.
Maybe the propulsion they're using would end up them having
or you know, are they using propulsion? Are they doing that, or are they doing it a la portals?
Well, we've had the testimony from Andrew de Bishago about the jump room. So, I mean, that's definitely in play. Again, can I prove it? Not me personally, but it's definitely something that's out there, Joe. Absolutely.
Well, then what we would be talking about here is occulted technology that only a very small elite have access to.
You mean like that Nazi elite that probably had it when they were speaking to aliens via the Thule Society?
But I mean, could it be that they, basically started or implemented, created Stargates? Isn't that what Nimrod was trying to do?
Oh, Joe, don't get me started. I think Stargates are real as well, man. I think that was a documentary, that show. It wasn't a fictional program.
I do too. No, I do too. I guess my point is that if it's going to happen, I think that would be the way that they do it. And if they do it that way, then of course it would be super easy to mask. See, I think that space is a barrier that is health-wise detrimental to humanity. We can't live off this planet for very long. We are tied to this planet. I know people want to do breakaway civilizations and all that, but we as a human being, our physiology is tied to the human residence. And when we start going away from that, very bad things happen. Unless there's some way you can simulate that so that you have that connection somewhere. But where we can do it for temporary amounts of time, and even low Earth orbit, you're still getting that Schumann resonance. I think it's until you get off and outside the Van Allen belt that man would start to really feel the effects of, that lack of connection. So I don't, where visits might be okay.
How about then, Joe? How about then we use a Stargate, go to Mars, for example. We're in league with some kind of federation of planets or some planet out there that manufacture these huge spacecraft that some would argue have been seen with these third generation kind of military night vision goggles. You see the videos online, and I know CGI can do anything, but some of these videos that you see, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but these look like your huge kind of mothership deals. So maybe we get to Mars, jump ship, got that federation. They give us a real ship we can travel in, and it's fully protected. Maybe we don't get bombarded with that radiation, Joe. I don't know.
Wow, could you imagine if it was something like that? Damn.
My mind's that open; it's spilling all over.
But you have to be. You have to be that open. You really do. If you're going to
have you guys ever seen? I'll have to look it up, but. They did sort of a projection of what the human race would look like if they lived on Mars, due to the gravitational changes and how humans would evolve. And it's very interesting because the way we would end up looking is very similar to the way the Greys look. Our heads would become a lot larger and our bodies would become a lot more thin and scrawny looking, basically because we don't have as much gravity pulling on us. We would get taller and a lot more skinny.
Man, I don't want to look like a gray dude.
I'll have to look it up. It's very interesting. Yeah, it does. We would eventually sort of evolve into a very sort of extraterrestrial looking.
I would have to imagine you would have to. There would be some sort of adaptation, if you will. You know, we do that. And the human body has a way of adapting to its environment.
Yeah, you gotta take that into account too. I mean, life will find a way, and we will adapt. So and then of course that plays into the whole Craig Vintner thing and the DNA manipulation, and just getting us to a point to where maybe we can survive outside of that Schumann resonance.
And they always say that we're 50 years behind what they're telling us in reality. And there's Venter talking to NASA about splicing astronauts with of insects to protect against radiation. Mm-hmm. So 50
maybe they've done it already and they're already breeding it.
Exactly.
They're already, yeah, that's crazy.
Oh, I like this. I like this getting topics from the chat room. This is quite deep woo.
Yeah, no, I like it too. This is good.
You guys know that we're going to be teaming up with Russia and building a space station around the moon.
Yeah, because, they're our enemy.
Only on terra firma, Joe. Only
right. It just goes to show you that how politics has absolutely nothing to do with reality. It's all a show. It's all part of the Matrix. We'll be right back. Final segment coming up. Freaky Friday and your protection from deception. TruthFrequencyRadio.com. Don't go.
We are TFR.
My faith in destiny is all I need to prevail.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Yes, welcome back. We're back. Thank you.
Are we?
The music just kind of disappeared there.
Okay, it happens from time to time. Anyway, we're back. Hey, anybody in the chat room participating in the chat room tonight, last half hour, we're taking ideas. What do you want us to talk about tonight? We'll take your ideas. Before we do, though, we want to get a little more into this Russia, United States cooperative effort up in space. Scotty.
Yeah, so I saw this the other day and I was like, the things that kind of make you go, And this is from TechCrunch.com. NASA and Russia agree to work together on a moon space station. That's right, everybody. The ISS is old news. It's time to step things up here. It says at this year's International Astronautical Congress, NASA and Russia's space agency Roscosmos signed a joint statement expressing their intent to work collaboratively towards the development of a space station further out from Earth, orbiting the moon as a staging point for both lunar surface exploration and deeper space science. This is part of NASA's expressed desire to explore and develop its so-called Deep Space Gateway concept, which it intends to be a strategic base from which to expand the range and capabilities of human space exploration. NASA wants to get humans out into space beyond the moon, in other words, and the Gateway concept would establish an orbital space station in the vicinity of the moon to help make this a more practical possibility. While the Deep Space Gateway is still in concept formulation, NASA is pleased to see growing international interest in moving into cislunar space as the next step for advancing human space exploration. Robert Lightfoot, NASA's acting administrator at NASA headquarters in Washington, said in a NASA press release announcing the news. Statements such as this one, signed with Roscosmos, show the Gateway concept as an enabler to the kind of exploration architecture that is affordable and sustainable. This is still in the very early stages in terms of potential collaboration between Roscosmos and NASA. You might say it's an agreement to possibly agree to work together in the future, but it's a good sign for open dialogue about the plan to put a science and exploration facility in orbit around the moon in the future. So there you go. I guess we're going to be teaming up with the Ruskies and
Scott, you've teamed up with the Ruski many years ago. They didn't call me Kremlin Kev for nothing, you know. We've been world of wonders for like American-Russian relations, dude. I'm quite offended at that, man.
No, I mean, but this just goes to show. I mean, the politics here on terra firma seem to conflict with the politics in space, right?
'Tis true, absolutely true. Makes you wonder what's real and what's not. Oh, nothing. It's crazy.
It's almost as if it's what, a giant game,
a big game. Yeah. Hey, scientists are also proposing, with this increase of solar activity here within the solar minimum, scientists are proposing to protect the Earth from solar flares with a new gigantic shield. Believe it or not. It says, of course, that due to our electrical and electronic infrastructure now, when the power grid goes down, what happens? Our climate control systems shut off, the computers die, and all the electronic forms of commerce, communication cease. People don't realize the changes that take place. I've always said one of the best ways to prepare yourself for an emergency situation, whether it be a storm or a natural disaster, solar event, whatever it be, just gather your family up, sit them in the living room, and then shut off the main breaker of the house and go 24 hours without power. Set yourself up for a little experiment and see what your life is like and how it changes without power. You can even take away flushing water and running water. If you really want to get crazy, live 24 hours. Just try it and then jot down a note how your life changes and what you need to prepare for. Because once you have a frame of reference, then you can better prepare for that kind of situation should the problem arise. Well, scientists are trying to prevent the solar portion of that by deploying a big shield. And it said for this reason, there's a study, a giant magnetic shield they want to put in orbit. And it's a study from Harvard University. The Manasavi, Lingam, and Abraham Loeb, those are the head astrophysicists that just wrote this this report entitled Impact and Mitigation Strategy for Future Solar Flares. They explain that solar flares pose a particularly grave risk in today's world, but will become even a greater risk and a threat to humanity due to the growing presence of LEOs, low Earth orbit. Now, solar flares have been going and a growing concern for over 150 years, ever since the Carrington event of 1859. And since then, a lot of people have talked about it, not a whole lot of action on it, because up until recently, we really haven't had that much technology affected by it. But now kind of our whole lives depend on this technology. So they say that the cumulative economic losses, should something like that happen, would be about $10 trillion. As far as, and the recovery would take several years. That's huge. If you think about that, it's
well, yeah, it would completely wipe the slate clean. You'd have to start over again.
Right. And then think about this. Think about all the low Earth orbiting satellites that we have in orbit. If you have a solar flare like the Carrington event of that magnitude, you could see hundreds, if not thousands, of satellites start dropping out of the sky, acting like little radioactive meteors, some of the bigger ones. You have to remember, some of the fuel that these carry on board are extremely toxic. And then, of course, you have the threat it poses to the nuclear power plants and their ability to be able to maintain cooling water to their reactors. So if you have a big enough event, I mean, it could really wreak havoc on the planet. It could actually be an extinction level event. So they're writing about maybe creating a magnetic shield that could deflect the charged particles back out into space. It says the shield would protect the Earth in a way similar to what the magnetic field already does, but to a greater effect. And we've seen the magnetic field take a hit from time to time with experiments like CERN, because CERN is just so doggone powerful that when they turn it on, it's like, sticking your finger in an electrical socket. Your hair just goes poof.
Sounds almost like a gigantic Faraday cage.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. So I just find it interesting that they're, talking about doing this. And I wonder what the kind of cost associated would be with deploying this type of technology. I mean, and if it's even possible. And this is a huge article that gets into so much. And it says, placing a large shield in orbit around this L1 Lagrange point, and you never have to worry again about powerful magnetic storms ravaging the planet. That's what they say. It says on top of that, this study also offers a possible resolution to the Fermi paradox. When looking for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence, it might make sense to monitor distant stars for signs of an orbiting magnetic shield. And as Loeb, one of the scientists conducting this study, explained, such structures may have already been detected around distant stars and could explain some of the unusual observations astronomers have made, meaning that other civilizations could have already come up with and deployed similar technology, only we didn't know what we were looking at, and now we might know. He says,
so instead of a Dyson sphere, they could be deploying these protective shields.
So that's exactly what he's saying right now. He says the imprint of a shield built by another civilization could involve the changes it induces in the brightness of the host star due to occultation or similar behavior to Tabby's star if the structure is big enough. He says the situation could be similar to Dyson spheres, but instead of harvesting the energy of a star, the purpose of the infrastructure is to protect a technological civilization on a planet from the flares of its host star. So, similar to a Dyson sphere, only that it's reflecting the energy instead of absorbing it.
Ooh, I kind of like that. What do you think?
Yeah. Ted? So basically what they're saying is that we could already be observing other civilizations that are deploying this type of technology, and we just never knew it. And now they think that by knowing this, they might be able to identify planets that are already using this technology. Like it may be a marker, if you will, or a, hey, look at us. We're an alien civilization. Like a calling card, if you will.
I'm liking that. I mean, that is almost like a Dyson sphere, isn't it? Because you're still harnessing and using that energy of the local star. I really like it. I love it, Joe.
Yeah. No, it's kind of cool. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And it's a study out of Harvard University. But I have to, if
man in the chat room thought you were talking about a Tyson sphere, it's designed to protect your ears in a fight, Joe.
Yeah, no Tyson sphere. No.
Oh, I've just been hanging out in the chat room. There's an absolute energy in there tonight, and they were saying, after 2.5 hours, it kind of starts to dip. And if it wasn't for all you listeners out there, I honestly don't know how at times we would get through this 3-hour show. Because, like we say, we just come together for this one show at the end of the week. I haven't spoke to you in God knows how long, Joe. And here we are. We just throw it together. But it's all to do with them out there. For me, anyway, they so keep me going when I'm flagging. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Hey, speaking of keeping it going, right? Get this. For weird. According to phys.org, there was a spike in airborne radioactivity detected in Europe. Not your standard radioactivity, by the way, Kev. The radioactivity, the isotope detected, was ruthenium-106.
Okay, so where does ruthenium come from? Where's a source of ruthenium?
Ruthenium-106 is used for radiation therapy to treat eye tumors. And sometimes as a source of energy to power satellites. So there's a couple of things that could happen, right? Maybe a satellite fell and disintegrated in orbit and we don't know about it, or they're not saying anything about it, right? What if it's a spy satellite? Even though, according to the IAEA, they say Hungary is the likely source of elevated radioactivity levels. Or could it be like FedEx? Somebody inadvertently opened the door and a box fell out.
Yeah, they're delivering it to a medical facility, and oops.
What happened?
That's probably more likely, Joe. Come on, you know it.
We didn't get our shipment of Ruthenium 106. You guys know what happened to it?
Nah, just lost it. I have no idea what happened to it.
Write it up, order more. We'll be fine. Nobody will notice.
No one will notice. Right. So, yeah, that's apparently it has very specific purposes. It's used as a satellite fuel and also to treat eye tumors. Certainly not like power generation, power plants, nuclear weapons, things like that. So, very interesting.
Scotty Lopez, what is this you found? An Argentinian rancher has done what?
Yeah, well, you know, it wouldn't be Freaky Friday if we didn't get into a little bit of cattle mutilations, right?
Oh, deep woo.
Yes, deep woo indeed. And this is from mysteriousuniverse.org. And yes, Argentine rancher believes aliens mutilated his cattle. He says aliens were involved, without a doubt. This has been going on for 20 years and no one has offered any solutions. Without a doubt, says Julio Zerbrick, a cattle rancher in General San Martin, a city just northwest of Buenos Aires, Argentina. Make that a very frustrated cattle rancher who, like others in Argentina, is tired, frustrated, and fearful after over 20 years of mysterious cattle mutilations with no explanations or support from the government of one of the world's leading beef-producing nations. They must remove this is what he says. He says they must remove the organs on board the spacecraft because there was nothing strange to be found around the animal. One can also see that they must throw the animals from their craft because they land with their legs backwards. Zerbrick is describing to Argentine media the strange and sadly horrific state he recently found one of his black Aberdeen Angus cows, a pregnant cow. A picture reveals that the cow's eyes, tongue, and jaw were removed with surgical precision, but did not show that the cow's anus were also gone. But strangely, not the teeth, or not the healthy fetus that was near term. And then there's a pretty crazy picture right there if you want to drop that in chat for everyone to see.
You know, Scott, I mean, we recently, one of the highlights of my whole time on radio was speaking to Linda Moulton Howe. And she'd be the perfect person to get in on this kind of topic here because this really is, I mean, if there's deep woo, if there's levels of woo, Scott, we really are getting to the deep stuff now. Whether we'll get closer to the actual answers on cattle mutilation, it's beyond me. But, you know, if I was to formulate some kind of theory out there, there's quite obviously something in that bovine anatomy that is of great interest to whoever it is that's taking these things. And, you know, they say that looking at cows and cattle is a good way of predicting what kind of diseases may be coming into the actual world of humans and things like that. So it really does. It fascinates me no end, Scott, but can I give you an answer? Who knows?
I know it's really bizarre, and I was actually it was actually great for me to actually be on the show with Linda Howe with you whenever we had her on. It was absolutely fantastic. I'm gonna go a little bit more into this article here because it's very interesting.
And I'll post this in the chat room, the picture of the actual cow, because this is not normal. Absolutely, there's nothing natural about this whatsoever.
Yeah. it continues on here. It says, while he saw nothing strange around the cow, Julio hesitated to approach his cow for a very good reason. His dogs were staying at least 50 meters away. He says, these cases are classic. I don't know how dogs are aware of them and come no closer. Cattle mutilations have long been the bane of Argentine ranchers, but they've been on the increase since 2015, as a website devoted to tracking them attests. The photo-filled site ends with a mutilation in Tilisario in central Argentina this past July. It will soon have another listing. Is the prevalence of mysterious mutilations in Argentina because it has so many cattle, or could there be another, possibly alien cause? Chuck Zukowski and Debbie Ziegelmeyer have been investigating cattle mutilations in the United States for years, and their map of them shows a high concentration along the 37th parallel, a line through California, Nevada, Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, and Virginia, with a high number of cattle mutilations and enough UFO sightings to nickname it the UFO Highway. Their data and observations were detailed in the book The 37th Parallel by Brad Mesrich, which has been made into a movie. So the obvious question is, where is the 37th parallel south? Place your bets now. And as you guessed it, it runs through the middle of Argentina.
Wow, and I'm betting, right, it won't be... I'm trying to think of the geography here. No, I'm wrong on that one. Ignore me, Scott. Ignore me. I got my global wrong there. I was definitely about to make a fool of myself if I'd said what I was going to say, but somebody in the chat room said, go on, Kev, say it. We could be looking at reptilians here, Scott. They might have some interest in cattle DNA. It took, 2 hours and 50 minutes for me to go to the reptilians, but I'm there, Scott. You knew it would happen. It's the reptilians that are doing it, dude. A lot of people reacting to the picture in the chat room, absolutely astonished by what they're seeing there, and this is quite common when it comes to these cattle mutilations. I mean, who knows, Scott? Who knows?
Yeah, I'm actually interested in probably looking at some of what has happened here in Kansas, because I live in Kansas. So, and we are like one of the main beef producers in the country. I mean, we have massive cattle lots in western Kansas. So, I think it would be really interesting to see if there were any cases or how many cases occurred here in Kansas. And I do know that there are a lot of UFO sightings here in Kansas. I mean, I can attest to that personally because I've had quite a few experiences of seeing unidentified objects. So,
have you been anal probed before?
No,
I mean,
not yet. I'll let you know, Joe. You'll be the first to know.
Excellent. I want an exclusive on that when it happens.
As Linda was explaining, and I was quite shocked, was the fact that at the time when she got into all of this cattle mutilation, she was working for CBS, a very mainline kind of program, and she heard about it from another similar show that was running out of a New York studio. Now, the New York studio, they ended up just not touching it because of so much hassle they were getting when they were going out to film things, stuff like that. But this was how long ago? Maybe 30 years ago she got into this, Scott, and we're still no clearer an answer. Joe, your take on the cattle mutilations, man. Is it really reptilian?
I think it's government staged to make you think that that's what it is.
But why don't the government just have their own cows and just do it and don't stage anything? They could do it in covert without having to tell anyone.
I don't know. Why not? Would it be not like the Mandela effect in a way, where you have these scientists that know what they're doing? Then they're like, ha, 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 look at what we're doing. You know, almost like a joke they're playing on humanity. Wouldn't this not be like the same thing? Hey, guys, let's go and kill a couple of cows again. And we'll leave them out right there so that people get all messed up and think it's the Greys. And the Greys are probably like, oh, freaking Frank's at it again. He's staging another scene. Now we're going to get blamed for this again. And then the Greys go ahead, and I bet you it's like this running prank thing that's going on.
Mutilations are false flag attacks.
That's what they are.
Well, alien false
a
flags.
false flag this day, so why not? No,
I mean, hey, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Maybe it's crisis cows.
Crisis cows. Yeah, that's what it is.
Crisis cattle.
Folks, we're almost out of time, and I can see Mr. Geo. He's locked and loaded in the chat room, and that's because coming up right after the break, don't go anywhere. It just continues because Chris and Cherie, they invite you beyond the veil right here after this show, coming up in a couple of minutes. It's been an absolute blast tonight, guys. I'm so sorry we lost Johnny Whistles somewhere. I've tried messaging him on his phone. He has adopted the true Schrodinger's Johnny.
Yeah, it's really weird how he just phased out, yet he's still here. He's almost quantum. He's here, but he's not. But he is at the same time.
But we can observe his avatar in the sky.
Yeah, we see his avatar, but that's it.
Lapse him into reality. John, where are you?
I don't know. Personally, it's not the first time that I've seen him fall asleep at the microphone.
No, it would not be the first time, and I predict it won't be the last time. And I can make that prediction with full confidence. I really can. But from me, gents, I've had a brilliant night. I hope all the audience out there have absolutely loved this, because this has to be one of our best Freaky Fridays yet, Joe, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's the case, It always is. We just, it's always the best.
I can't even go to bed because Chris and Cherie are on after the break. It might be 3 a.m. here in the UK, but you can't just go to bed after a Freaky Friday. The adrenaline's still pumping, so I'll be hanging out in the chat room with all you great people and all the audience out there listening further afield as well. And I urge you all, stay tuned for Chris and Cherie. And just come back, catch myself on Monday on the Kev Baker Show, Monday through Thursday. Joe, are you making any guest appearances this week on your old show?
No. Just doing my thing.
Well,
just doing my thing right now over the Daily Sheeple, and hopefully, we won't have Kim Jong-un doing anything crazy and Donald Trump doing anything crazy, Even though he said, "Oh yeah, it's the calm before the storm." That's what he said today. Wink, nudge, nudge.
Can't we just get the two of them in a Vince McMahon sponsored wrestling match or something?
Why? I think.
Well, it's all theater anyway, right?
They all work for the same person.
Oh,
crazy!
No, the music.
Yeah, Geo's coming up next here on your protection from deception. TruthFrequencyRadio.com. Thanks for listening and supporting Truth Frequency Radio. Have a good night, everybody.